as we have to discuss Richardson Hitchins in a robbery win against Gustavo Lemos in a fight that, again, if Hitchins won this, it was going to be his opportunity next to get a shot at a legitimate title. This was his next step, his biggest test up until the elevation of his career, and he did not suffice. He was not good in this fight. He got beat by Gustavo Lemos. This was a outright blatant robbery. In the biggest sense of the word, there is no reason, no doubt in my mind. Hitchins lost that fight. He didn't deserve that victory. He robbed Lemos of a legitimate opportunity to fight against people like Sabril Matias, against people like, and Isaac Cruz potentially. Anybody in that championship aspect, he robbed him of that opportunity. This was not, the judges got this so wrong. There was one scorecard that was absolutely egregious. What was it, like 117, 113? Impossible to see it that way. It's impossible to see this fight going in Hitchins' favor. This is ridiculous, and one of the key components and the key reasons why people don't like the sport of boxing, because constantly we keep seeing these types of decisions. They consistently get it wrong. The fight went exactly the worst way, or in exactly the worst way that Hitchins ever wanted the fight to go. The very way to beat Hitchins and the formula to beat him was finally exposed in this fight. No, something I speculated as I watched him go on. Hitchins got mauled. Hitchins got outworked. Hitchins got outmuscled. Hitchins got beat in every form of fashion. Literally beat up and muscled around the entirety of the night. Stalked and walked was the mentality of Gustavo Lemos, and he did not break from that at all. And the accuracy that we normally see from Hitchins was not enough to get out of the controlling volume and pressure and the muscling, bullying nature that we saw Lemos have in this fight. He couldn't escape it. He hasn't seen, in terms of Lemos, the end of a fight to go to distance in about 4 or 5 years. Just about. It's been a minute since he's actually gotten to a decision. And Hitchins, goes and wins most of his fights by decision. So this was a situation where whenever a pot-shotting perfectionist goes up against a brawler, the goal is always, and the pressure is always on, not the pressure fighter, but the fighter being pressured. And how can you make sure that you don't fall into their trap? Because if you do fall into their trap and fight their game, you may not be able to get out of it. And that's exactly what we saw. Lemos was able to hook on the inside, be relentless in his ability to force his way, despite the popping jabs of Hitchins, to be able to force his fight, get within the range as a shorter fighter. As the man with the shorter reach, he forced Hitchins into a war he didn't want to be in. He took reckless chances. He took opportunities that you normally wouldn't want from somebody. But you have to do that against somebody who is a perfectionist. Imperfection can be perfection when it's done perfectly. That's what we saw in Lemos. Lemos is an imperfect fighter. He's a buddy that swings wildly. He takes too many brash opportunities, and normally, like we saw in this fight, he will overcommit. He will overextend, and normally that is the thing that kills fighters in the ring. In terms of this, what beats them. We hope we don't want death in the ring, but in terms of what beats them in their game plan, is exactly that. But with how it's done, it can be perfected, and it can be something that can actually overcome the pot-shotting perfection in another fighter, the pinpoint accuracy of another fighter. We saw it in Fundora when he beat Sue. Now, granted, circumstances were different, but the overall thing, in terms of the theme, is the same. You have outright pressure and volume. It can be a formula to beat somebody who is overly skilled than you by putting them in a game plan that they do not want to be in. Hence, you turn it into a fight that they may not have wanted it to be. And that outside of their comfort zone, that makes them vulnerable. That's exactly what Lemos did. Lemos caught Hitchins a bunch of times, stumbled and wobbled him a bunch of times, almost knocked this brother out, and could have knocked this brother out. Legitimately. It was wild how much I had never seen Hitchins on this much of a Dream Street situation. He was out a couple of times in terms of he was not sure of himself. His sure footing and his normally a pinpoint precision in his movements, it wasn't there because he was getting cracked, because he was getting beat up and bullied. Lemos hurt Hitchins. Lemos caught Hitchins. Lemos outworked Hitchins. Lemos bullied Hitchins. Lemos made Hitchins never be able to find full control in this fight. And he won nearly every round. After those first 2 rounds, it really turned into a snowball effect for Lemos. Had this fight 8-4. 7-5 maybe, because the accuracy of Hitchins wasn't controlling the day. And he wasn't hurting Lemos nearly as much as we saw Lemos hurting him. Consistently had this man on skates at some point in the rounds nearly every time out. Hitchins, who had his moments, Hitchins fought back. Hitchins was able to get aggressive. He landed flurries. Yes, he did. But it wasn't enough. It was not enough. And this fight should not have gone his way. This fight shouldn't have been his victory. This fight should have been in the favor of Gustavo Lemos. We should be seeing him in line to fight people like Subriel Matias or Isaac Cruz or any of the top champions in terms of having the ability to elevate his career. It's no disrespect to Hitchins. This is just what the reality is. This is not okay. This is not okay at all when it comes to what we saw from this fight. It's not. There's no way in the world that this could be seen as respectable. This isn't a respectable victory because he didn't win this fight. Richardson Hitchins, fight to survive, not fight to win. Mind you, this brother was fighting to survive. He was fighting not to actually get a victory, but he was fighting just not to get knocked out. He wasn't boxing controlling the ring. He was only boxing to be able to survive another day. With all of that under the understanding of us. Now the question becomes, since he won this fight, he is now in contention for a legitimate title, like I've said multiple times. And he is potentially able to fight somebody like Subriel Matias. And since that is now in question, can he beat any of the elite fighters at 140 right now?